Welcome to Foundations of Teaching for Learning. This is week 3, Putting Students First, lecture 4 on student-centered teaching. Today we are going to focus on the paradigm shift in teaching learning. A lot of policymakers and theorists, they kind of talk about these two traditions that exist in the teaching learning. That is the teacher-centered teaching learning and the student-centered teaching learning. And look at the slide here. And we have on one side the teacher-centered teaching learning process, where it states that teachers are the most important people. Teachers take charge of learning, and they are the most active and the most resourceful, and they're the content expert. And teachers ask questions and they provide the answers, and they have the right to talk. And on the other side, if this is the student-centered teaching learning, then we may want to ask the question, to what extent students are considered the most important people in the teaching learning process? And do they take charge of learning? Are they most active in the learning process? Are students most resourceful? Are they content experts? If so, to what extent? Can students ask questions and provide the right answers? And do they have the right to talk? So these are the two different paradigms that exist right now with regard to teaching learning process. For the purpose of this lesson, we shall focus more on the student-centered teaching. When we look at this image, see, teacher in the past used to be the know-all and does everything as he sees as the right thing to do. Whereas the students, they always keep asking, what happens to my needs? What happens to my abilities? What happens to my interests and desires in the learning styles? And looking at this situation, we see teacher as a facilitator who is there to help the students learn. They are there to discuss with the students, help them out in whatever ways they could. For instance, teachers will ask like, why don't you talk it out with your buddy? Or maybe you want to take a second look at it. And encourage students by telling, that seems like a great idea. Or is there any other ways to interpret this idea? Do you need more time? Or how is it going? And let me help you. Or are you okay with the process? So in this way, like, teachers can help students take a more active role in the learning process. Why the shift or change? We have always known that thinking, feeling, and doing cannot be separated from each other. They are like parts of the cog wheels, which is always interlocked to create that experience in students. If students are not engaged in these three aspects, it is very difficult to come up with learning experience that can be powerful. Mere words of mouth cannot and will not make it go. However good a teacher may be, he will not be able to make a student any smarter unless he is able to make the students think, feel, and do. Get engaged in these three aspects at one time. How can this happen? It is doable by doing active learning or creating situations where students can participate in active learning, and also giving them the chance to participate in cooperative learning, where students can work in pairs, in small groups, and come up together with ideas. And also teachers can participate or do inductive teaching, where students are engaged in small project-based challenges that is related to their subject. Think about this in your situation, how this gets played out. What is the evidence to show that student-centered teaching is powerful? Here is a quote from Richard Felder. You may want to read this to see how powerful student-centered teaching methods can be in a classroom. Now let's look at this diagram, which shows the relationship between the written curriculum and student outcome. Teachers have the option to follow the traditional teaching mode, where teacher becomes the center of the teaching learning process, where the emphasis is very much on the teaching part. And when it comes to student outcome, this can be a little problematic because not sure to what extent students are learning. Whereas the progressive mode focuses on emphasis on student learning, where the students are given chance to be active participants in the learning process, the outcome can be more promising. Again, this is a space for you to think about to what extent written curriculum that is followed either in the traditional or the progressive mode, the teacher-centered or the student-centered mode, can result in effective student outcomes. There are 5 challenges for the teacher when he or she is trying to become more student-centered in their mode of learning. First of all, how does he or she can convert the curriculum that is focused on student-centered mode of learning? 2, how can he or she plan, prepare, and facilitate student-centered teaching and learning? 3, how can he or she focus on what, when, where, and how, and under what conditions learning takes place? And 4, how he or she can monitor students' learning and growth individually. Finally, how he or she can emphasize students' responsibility for their own learning. These are the challenges that teachers may face when they are shifting from more teacher-centered to student-centered teaching and learning. Finally, we have come to the Think, Pair and Share session. Here, with a colleague of yours, you may want to think about what is the difference between active and passive learning. Can learning ever be passive? What does inductive teaching means to you, and how is it relevant to your classroom? Think about these questions till we meet again in the next lecture. Thank you very much.